The three things that I've accomplished to date would be, firstly, raising my children on the conscious parenting model, which emphasizes collaboration, connection, compassion, and communication. Secondly, I would say it's my sound healing meditation. It's a unique melody that I've created using frame drumming, singing bowls, tuning forks, a tongue drum, and also light language. And anyone that receives my sound healing tells me every time they feel so much healing from within, and it releases any pain and aches and worries. And third would be finishing the Course of Miracles. I did 365 of the daily lessons over 3 years. So I've done that book 3 times over. So I am proud of that accomplishment as well. In my own life, I am inspired to write when I read other authors' books that are authentic, that show their eloquence and their unique way of expressing this higher state of consciousness. That inspires me to also do the same, to share any self-mastery tips that I can to the reader. I think it's important that we all continue to help each other raise our vibration and evolve as a human race. And if I can lead the way and show what I've done and give examples, then I'm happy to do that. And I find inspiration in other writers that inspire me to do the same as well. The author and book that made a big impact on my life was reading Dr. Shefali's Conscious Parenting book. When I read that and started to practice that and do the inner work, reparent myself, learn to identify my triggers and grow up as a professional human being, I really felt that made a significant impact, not only with my children, but all those that came in relationships with me, from family to friends, and just how I show up every day. The best way to describe my book, Journey from the Ego to the Heart Center, I think the title says it all. It's about my personal journey of transformation, how I started off stuck in the ego, and it took me 10 years to work through it, but I had to do a slow and steady journey of transformation, discovery, self-awareness, and then having a breakdown and a breakthrough, and becoming spiritually awakened and discovering my spiritual gifts along the way. That's the best way to describe it. The book is about self-mastery, going on a spiritual quest to become a better version of myself. My first beginnings with writing would probably date back to my early 20s and 30s. I have been a consistent journaler. I've always had a diary. I enjoy taking notes and reflecting on the day. Sometimes I used to write positive affirmations or just sort of put on paper what I wanted to release and let go. But most recently, in the last few years, I started to find that I wanted to write more than just a page. And that's when I started to type it up and actually tell my story from start to finish. And I think that's what's made the difference. Starting off with journaling and then advancing to a book, it's a big jump, but it's been a steady and slow process over many years. I think the key to making a good story or novel is definitely trying to be engaging with the audience, with the reader, trying to show us the character, getting to know them, and bringing your reader into your story so they're part of it. You're holding their hand, you're making them feel the characters, see the outline of who they are, understand their fears, their joys in life, if there's characters, but also just captivating the audience with expression, with contrast, and keeping it with a methodical type of flow. So it's chronological, or it makes sense from start to finish, and there's maybe a lesson that's learned, or an epiphany about an awakening, or something to take on that when you close the book, you think, oh, okay, that was really good, and I might make a change in my life, or use that as an opportunity to improve my state of being. These days, I probably don't spend as much time as I'd like writing. I am still doing lots of blogs and writing notes to myself as I prepare for launching my book. But prior to that, when I was writing the book, I would have dedicated 1 to 2 hours each night to type up chapters, make time to review, read over it again, and just sort of fine-tune it and get it to flow the way I wanted to. So generally, 1 to 2 hours, that would be my writing time. My book, Journey from the Ego to the Heart Center, it took about 10 to 11 months to actually write the book. But once it was written, it took longer then to go back over it and rewrite it, make sure the sentences seemed like they were understood and they had good grammar. So that took a lot longer. That probably took another 12 months to do. There were many hours of rereading it, editing, reviewing, and doing that all over again. So it's been a long process. The writing was the shortest part. It's the reviewing that took the longest, and the editing. The most challenging part of writing the book was being vulnerable, was being honest enough to just put it out on the table. And there were times where I hesitated and thought, oh, should I share this? But I had this inner nudge, this inner calling saying, no, say it, say it, say it, and don't hold back. Be authentic, speak your truth, be honest, be vulnerable, be candid. And so that's where I'm at. There's a lot that I wasn't sure I would share, but I ended up doing it. And so as you read my book, you'll realize, oh, that's something new that I've never heard of. And it may trigger some of you, but this is your chance to practice discernment and question why you may or may not believe in my truth. I found it helpful to take a few days off and just have time to relax and not have to write a chapter. And then when I read it again, I would see the errors or the mistakes and then fix it. I also didn't rush the process. There was no sort of due date. I just thought I would let nature take its course, let the book be organic, not a forced piece of writing. And what I found over time, those chapters came together quite effortlessly. I knew what I needed to say. It was only the last chapter. I felt the book wasn't ready at chapter 18. So I thought, no, it needed one more chapter, and that was to close it off with a description of how to live your life vibrantly. If I could go back in time, I would tell my younger self, hang in there. Just because you got a D grade in your English assignment doesn't mean you're not going to be a writer in the future. There are going to be many opportunities for you to write and to share your message. So enjoy the adulthood of life. Enjoy the roller coaster. Learn your lessons, write them down. Be a beacon of light. Shine your light, be authentic, and don't be afraid. You've got this.